everybody. Welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Harding, and today we have our special guest, Jimmy Rex. He is a man of many talents, a realtor, best-selling author, right? Investor, houseboat owner, all those different things, right? He's got a lot of things going for him. And we're happy to have him here today with us. So we're going to talk. About several things today, but I want to talk about real estate first. Obviously, that's first and foremost kind of where we're at here with things. But tell me, did you always want to be a realtor? Is this always like dream? Hey, I always want to be a realtor. When I grow up,
I kind of backed into it a little bit. Well, when I was a kid, my dad was a realtor. And I remember in his office was kind of off limits, but we'd sneak in there and or whatever. And he had his ERA signs and his business cards, and I thought it was kind of cool. But when I was a kid, I always wanted to have money as an adult. My parents used to fight over money all the time. I'd sit at the bottom of the stairs and I'd hear them fighting over money. So I remember from a very young age thinking okay, if I can have money, I don't have problems in the house. And so I did become very aware of okay, how am I going to do this? Yeah. And when you're a kid, you don't really know. You just, you want to be rich when you're older, but you don't know how it's going to happen. Sure. And I started selling meat door to door, and I started a TV show, and I had this other side business going, and I'd done all these things, and all of a sudden a buddy of mine was working at a Prosper here in Utah and selling real estate education. Yeah. And he's like, hey, you should listen to some of these CDs. They're pretty good. And so I started listening to, it was like Robert Kiyosaki and Robert Allen and, Carlton Sheets, some of these original guys. And anyways, long story short, that piqued my interest. And I went to UVU for 2 years and was going to travel or go to BYU instead for my next 2 years. But I didn't know you have to apply 6 months in advance. I had no idea. I was pretty naive. And so I just showed up. I just showed up, literally showed up first week. And I'm like, hey, I'm here to take classes. They're like, did you get accepted? And I'm like, well, that's what I'm here for, duh. And they were kind of just like, well, the deadline was October, sir. And I'm like, oh. So I had 6 months with nothing to do. And one of my buddy's dads was a big real estate developer, and he was going to get his real estate license. So I'm like, well, let's just do it together. Sure. And anyway, so I got my license, and within a couple of weeks of getting it, started selling houses, and the rest was kind of history. Kind of just took off. I loved the idea of how much money you could make selling one house, and that was kind of the intriguing part to me. Sure. But the first 6 months, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just I think I sold 4 houses or something, and I was still working on other side businesses and things. And then ultimately, I hired Mike Ferry, the Mike Ferry organization, and my first full year with them, I sold 60 houses, and my next year I sold 98, just me and an assistant. So it was off to the races, And so anyway, so that's kind of how I got started. Okay. But
well, what do you think makes? I mean, obviously, so you've become successful in real estate, right? Done really well. What do you think separates those that make it and maybe those that don't, or not necessarily, get out of it?
Sure, but just stay average or whatever. Yeah. And it's. As Mike used to say, I've repeated this many a times, but the difference between the successful and unsuccessful people is successful people have merely learned to do the things that unsuccessful people don't want to do. He used to say to fall in love with the daily boring routines. I became obsessed with doing my daily calls. Every day I was in the office before 7:30. I was role-playing and practicing my scripts. And then it's funny, those that know me from back then, when I was first at the Keller Williams office, I made them build in the office a separate, basically like a closet. It was a prospecting booth, I called it. It was my own place where I would go and I would make my calls. And I didn't miss. I mean, I made those calls 5 years in a row for 3 hours a day. So the consistency, I would say, is the number one thing that separated me from everybody else. Sure. It just, no matter if I had a great day, a horrible day, it didn't matter. I was going to be making those calls every day. And that consistency, I think, is what made me stand out over other people.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a little bit each day, right? Adds up, right? And a lot of times people don't want to do those things. They're boring. They're hard to do, right?
Yeah. So, but that's really the thing for me. It was the consistency, just doing that hard work every single day. Because as realtors, it's very easy to feel like we're busy when we're not. Sure. There's a lot of things to distract yourself. There's a lot of things to pretend you're working. I mean, go look at houses. You can surf the MLS. You can I see all these realtors now, and they're doing these reels and these TikToks and stuff. And I'll just give you an idea. By the way, on its own, those things, if you're not already kicking butt in real estate, you're wasting your damn time. I look up these realtors, they're not selling any houses.
Yep.
I have TikToks, and my average TikTok now probably gets 30,000 views.
Okay.
I have a very good TikTok. A lot of those are about real estate. Now, I built my TikTok because I sunk my houseboat, and that was what you were alluding to earlier, and I had 150 million views on that. My first week on TikTok, I had 100,000 followers, and I had videos with 30 million views on it.
Yeah.
But my TikToks do very well, and I don't get any deals from that. Okay. What it does, you can use social media to augment when people already know who you are. It's a good way for me to stay in front of people. Okay. It's a good way for me to remind people what I'm doing. But realtors, they do all these things that it just wastes their time. I see all these real estate agents making these reels, and they're trying to be funny, and they're just not. They look sad to the average person. They're like voiceovering some damn thing that went viral, and it's just stupid. And so it's, I know I just was talking to someone about this earlier today, but it's like, so for me, I see how real estate agents spend their time, and I'm like, no, they have no idea. And the sad part is they want to do what I'm doing now, but when I was starting it out, it was 7 to 8, it was role playing, it was 8 to 11 on the phones, 11 to 12 was lead follow-up, 12 to 2 was 2 lunch appointments with somebody I knew, and then from 2 o'clock till 7, 8, 9, depending on the night, I was either on appointments, back prospecting, or some kind of networking event to meet new people. It was every night for 5-6 years.
Wow. So what I'm hearing you saying is that's what made your business successful. It wasn't being.
Yeah, I'd like to tell you I had some special thing I did on social media, but it was just grinding my ass off.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I think, but see, the people see you on social media, they think, oh, hey, Jimmy's successful, and I see him on this, therefore that equals success.
Yeah,
right?
I'm actually a terrible trainer. When new agents would come join my team, I quit taking on new agents because they wanted to know what I was doing now. Yeah. And I'm like, no. And everyone that knows me is like, yeah, that's not exactly how he got this thing where it is. And so it's hard for me to train new agents because, I'm over here like, no, you need to make 30 calls a day. You need to go preview 5 houses per day. You need to memorize the script so that you can deliver them with power and with emotion and everything else. And I'm like, it's a brutal schedule, and most people don't want to do that. And so they just go, well, I'd rather make Instagram reels,
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people want to be rich without the work, right?
Yeah.
Hey, no, I want the money, but I don't like that. I don't like doing all that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so you already kind of alluded to this, but obviously you're very good at networking, right? So obviously, how is that? Is that where a lot of your business came from too? You're doing the calls, stuff like that. That's the clients, I guess, just trying to get deals, but networking too. That part of your business.
Yeah, no, I've always been a student of other people. So I watch people that are successful at different things, and there's just certain people that, their social intelligence, their emotional intelligence, their ability to be in a social setting and just win people over. I always was fascinated. So I was trying to learn from people, and I had the gift of being around a lot of very successful older people when I was younger. When I was doing the TV show that I did in college, I would sell to all the business owners. And so I got very comfortable talking to older people and successful people, and they were people that owned companies and restaurants and businesses and stuff. And so I started learning from them. Yeah, and I learned very quickly that they love high energy. A lot of people are bored. A lot of people just like good, fun energy. And so I'd just show up with that youthful glimmer in my eye, and they'd want to have me around. And so I had the benefit of having a lot of these mentors and coaches, people like Bill Pipes and Tom Ferry and Mike Ferry, and some of these people in real estate, and then people outside of real estate as well. But so from 2005 to 2010, all I did was prospect. But I did get burned out. It's a very hard way to make money if you don't. Every single day is a grind. You get hung up on 30 times to set one appointment. Well, if I did that every day, I had 5-6 appointments at the end of the week. I had 4 listings. I sold 3 of them. I just made a lot of money. That was my schedule. That's what it looked like. And I got burned out. And so I was talking to my coach Bill one time, and he's, in my opinion, the top real estate coach in the country. And he's like, I'm like, dude, I got into this to have fun, to go to parties, to meet people, to have free time, to travel. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just working my butt off. Yeah. And he's like, well, let's set up your business in a way you can do that. And so what I did is I targeted, basically said, all right, well, who do I know that has money? Mm-hmm. Who do I not know that has money that I can get to know? And then I said, how can I create enough value in their lives where they'll want to have me around? And so I just became obsessed with creating more value than I was taking from every person I came across. And so anytime I go and I meet somebody, I'm trying to create enough value where they want to have me around. And so I, little by little started meeting more and more successful people, high value people, and built this network. And I did that a lot through, again, just providing service, doing things for them, through a lot of client parties. I was kind of the first one that I know of that was doing big client events on their own. I mean, my 4th of July party has 5,000 people show up, and I rented out the water park by myself, just me and my real estate team. Not like exactly. Yeah. And and we do this giant Halloween party and these charity galas and things like that where we raised $150,000 for OUR, for example, and all these things were just my real estate team. We were just doing, there's 3 or 4 of us on my team doing that, and over time people just want to be around people that are giving back, people that are doing cool things, and so learned to network, and then it got to the point where every one of my deals now for the last probably 10 years has come from a referral or from me calling one of my friends and just seeing if they're interested in buying or selling real estate. So 98% of our business now comes from people that know me or have met me through somebody they know.
So a lot of the grind, the
grind is gone. I couldn't keep doing that much longer. I mean, but that's what built the base, though, because it's one of those things. One of the things I tell people about networking, I'm like, look, I can get you in the room with just about anybody. The problem is if you don't belong in the room, like, you're just not going to vibe. It's not going to do you any good. So there's no sense in me even trying to get you there. And so what I tell people is, if networking is like, if there's 10 levels where the top level is Elon Musk and Joe Rogan or whoever your person is on the top, Tony Robbins,
like it.
Whatever level you're at, let's say you're at a level 9, and people make the mistake of trying to jump up to a level 3. Well, you just don't belong in the room yet. So there's nothing you can offer that person, or very little. So find people that are doing a little bit more than you, wherever you are on that scale, and then figure out ways to make their life better. So if you're on a 9, try to reach up to 8s and 7s. If you're a 7, try to reach up to 6s and 5s. You know what I mean by what I know. And so eventually you kind of move up and you get more and more people that are creating a lot of value to society. And next thing you know, you can be one of the most networked guys in town. So that's kind of how I did it. I just tried to always reach up a little bit. And then also for every person you're reaching up to, I try to reach down and help somebody else. And so you're giving back in different ways as well.
Love that. We taking notes on this? Hopefully, I like this. Talk to me about failures. Have you ever had any failures? I mean, you said you got burned out, but I mean, any noticeable, oh man, I learned a lot from that experience.
For sure. Well, I mean, before I got into real estate, so I was selling meat door to door, and I wanted to be retired by 30. I was making a couple $1,000 a day. I mean, I was crushing it. So we had, good, 12 different guys working for me, going out and selling meat every day. And I was 21, 22 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I started this out of my condo in Provo when I was going to school at UVU. And then ultimately building this up, I had a partner from the Netherlands, and we were going to franchise. And I was like, wow, we were going big. Yeah, we had the lawyers all set up. This thing was huge. We actually franchised it to a guy in St. George, but Herman, who was my partner, was a 6'4" guy from the Netherlands. And bless his heart, he had a drug problem. I didn't know this. I mean, I was a pretty naive Mormon kid. We're like taking this guy to church. I'm thinking I'm going to baptize him. He's doing coke on the weekends. So it just wasn't a good fit. Maybe that happens more than we know, but no. And so anyway, long story short, one day, 35 grand's just gone from our account. And he's missing, and he's gone for 2 weeks. And he was renting one of my houses, so his family's calling me, and they're yelling at me, and I have no idea where this guy's at. And he comes back after a 2-week drug binge. And he was from the Netherlands, so he didn't have any credit, so I had to get everything in my name. So I had about 120 grand of debt. I'm 24 years old, 23 years old. And, my buddy that sold hats in the mall had 120 grand more than I did at this point. But he came back and he says, our money's gone, and, literally hookers and blow, the whole thing. And I'm just like, this is too much for me. I can't handle this. And so I said, look, I can't have you in my life. I'm going to figure this out. So I got stuck with 120 grand debt and this meat company that I now didn't want to do. And that's when I got into real estate. And the cool part about it was, it was brutal at the time. I was just like devastated. So I had to call every one of the debtors. I owed 60 grand to Mountain America. I owed 15 grand to the guy that owed the warehouse. I owed 50 grand to this guy we franchised to, whose money got used on cocaine instead. And next thing I know, I got to pay everyone back. And so I'm just, I just told everyone, look, I'm going to pay you back. It's going to take me a minute, but I promise I'm going to make good on it. And so every single person, I put a poster board behind my wall, and I shut down the meat company. And that's when I got into real estate. And so when I got in, this was the beauty of it, though, is, I had so much motivation to do something because I had all this debt. And back then I'm thinking, the bishops warning girls in the ward, if they have $800 debt on their credit card, don't trust the guy because he's reckless. I'm over here with 120 grand, I can bury the whole ward with my debt. But and so anyway, long story short, I'm like, I got to get this gone now. And so I did. So I'd been in real estate, but I kind of was waffling. Like I said, my first 6 months, I think I sold 4 houses. And that day is when I hired a coach, and Mike Ferry, and I never knew what to do before. I learned exactly what to do, how to do it, how to say it. And so I just did. I went all in and gave it everything I had for the next couple of years. And little by little, I'd pay off the debt. I had a poster board behind my wall and had everyone I owed money to.
Yeah.
And I just would cross it off every time $4,000 here, $2,000 here, $1,000 here, and eventually paid it all off. And it was funny because right when I paid it off, the real estate market collapsed.
Okay.
And I got stuck with 2 houses. I had 13 houses I'd bought, because back then you didn't have to put any money down.
This.
It's
a little easier back then.
A little crazy.
Yeah.
And heaven forbid it didn't work for everybody. But so I had these 2 homes. I ended up losing again about $160,000 on those. And it was right when I paid off the meat debt. I had to I couldn't short sell the houses because they knew I'd made a lot of money, because those 2 years I'd sold 60 and 98 homes.
Sure.
So they said, look, we'll let you sell them, but you have to take the debt on a 0% loan.
Oh, wow.
And so I got stuck with 2 houses with, the difference between what they sold for and what they were worth. Yeah. So I had $160,000 debt, and I started flipping homes. This was 2009, 10. I started flipping homes as well as doing my job, and we ended up paying that off pretty quick. I had a couple of meth houses that turned out really well that we remediated and made a bunch of money on. And so got that off actually within a year. But it was failure after failure. I had sold and made millions of dollars, and then after that, as soon as I got all that debt off, I went to college and got my master's at Arizona State and had to write a check for $75,000. You're getting hit with taxes. And I 10 years into this, I'm like, how the hell does anybody actually make any money? Like, how do you ever keep your money? Yeah. It was depressing. It was not like now where there's just like so many ways to make money. Back then, that was a lot of money. And I was just born at the wrong time, I guess, but that's okay. The lessons are worth it. And so I had failure after failure. I'd been I was 6-7 years into my career, 10 years into making a lot of money, and had no money. I finally, in 2011, got it back to like square one, where I had everything paid off and started kind of building from there. But I had plenty of failure, man. It was brutal.
But since 2011, then since then, I guess.
In 2013, so when I went to school at Arizona State, that was 2012, 2013. And while I was gone, we got a hedge fund out of California, American Homes for Rent, and they hired us, me and my real estate team, to find them off the market properties they wanted to buy. And so we set up a door-to-door team, me and a couple other agents, and I was in Arizona, again, going to school, but I would sit in the back of the classroom all day running comps on these houses, and I had door knockers that were just going and finding people, say, hey, if you're willing to sell your house, we have a cash buyer. And they'd pay us a 3.5% commission on each house. And so we were knocking all these doors, and we sold 87 homes in 3 months. And so the best year I ever had up to that point is when I was living in Arizona. I think my team did 189 deals that year, 187 deals or something, and I wasn't even living in the state. And so I started feeling like I was a pretty big deal again.
You started to feel pretty good.
Similar as I did right before the crash the first time. And I said, Vivint, which is obviously a big company here in Utah County, I'd always kind of had this itch, like maybe I should have gone that route. Should I work with those guys? I had so many friends with them. I'd sold a ton of homes to those guys. I saw how much money they were all making, and I kind of had this idea. I was like, well, I was able to go to school and have my best year ever, so maybe I'll go sell solar. Vivint Solar just started up, and I was like, maybe I'll go sell solar and do real estate at the same time. And so I actually flew to Santa Rosa, California. They gave me the lead job of that office, and I was the head person. And but what happened is when you chase 2 rabbits, they both get away. And real estate, just little things started getting missed. My team didn't follow up on a couple of things. I was missing a couple of clients' calls. Meanwhile, in California, I was waiting for the Vegas office to open. I was going to take that over. So in the meanwhile, I was getting my butt handed to me on the doors out there. And so anyways, all of a sudden I looked at my account and I was like, kind of broke again. I was like, geez.
Wait a second.
Yeah. So I had to stop and came home, and I knew, like, quitting solar, my ego, I was like, okay, well, I don't want people to think I was a failure. And so I said, I'm going all in on real estate. And that I ended up having my best years ever. And since then, it's been pretty awesome. But
what year again?
That was 2014.
2014. Okay. So and since then, obviously, you became who we know you as today.
I would say I became that those first 7 years, but people kind of, it was more in people's public eye after that.
Okay, that makes sense. Would you give yourself any advice 20 years ago? Or are you happy with some of those things?
I wouldn't change any of it. It's all part of my story. Here's the best way I can put it is, I wouldn't want to go through it again. Of that. It was hard. It was brutal. It was brutal. People have you remember, but it was so hard to get a house sold.
It was.
Nobody had money.
Yeah.
Nobody. And everybody's house was upside down 20%.
Yeah.
And, I look at it now and I just laugh because I'm like, man, it was these agents, if you've been in the business less than 10 years, you don't even know what a hard market looks like. We haven't had one.
No.
And so, I wouldn't want to do it again, but I'm just super grateful I went through it.
Sure. And
it's one of those questions, like if you could tell yourself anything, the only thing I would tell myself is hang on to all your real estate. I sold so many houses that I didn't need to along the way. I even sold some a few years ago. I really didn't need to sell them. I just, for whatever reason, I've made 90 grand. The market can't keep going up. I had a condo over in Orem that I bought for 155 and I had a partner on it. And market shot up to like 245. I'm like, bro, I do not see how these ever go higher. Yeah. So I'm like, let's just sell it. He's like, done, let's sell it. So we took, we split 80 grand between us. Felt pretty awesome. Yeah. They go for 410 grand now. These stupid condos in Orem. I'm like, what the hell? I know. And so, it was cash flowing 400, 500 bucks a month. There was no reason to sell it other than it was just kind of like, let's just sell it. What the hell? Yeah. So that would be the one thing I'd tell myself. Keep all your real estate. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think we didn't see him coming up this fast. It's just been crazy, right?
And I've been, for 5-6 years, I've been screaming, buy more real estate to everybody. And I own over 30 properties. I've kept a lot of them.
So you have a bunch. So when you say sold, you sold a few, sure, but you're keeping quite a few still.
Yeah, and I wish I just bought a lot more, right?
Sure,
but
we all do.
But I did buy a lot of real estate, but nobody ever says, if I'd only sold that house 15 years ago. Sure. They all say if I'd kept that house from 15 years ago. And so, that's the one thing I'd tell my younger self. I could have made my path a lot easier. But ultimately, I went through that downturn and I saw the other side of it. Sure. And so now I'm just very careful to only own real estate I want to own. If the market crashes, I'll still be happy I own every single house I have. Fair enough. Because of the way I've bought them, the cash flow I have, the equity, everything else.
Well, so shifting gears a little bit, obviously we are in a different market, right? And we have, obviously you and I have both been in the market for a long time, so, we've seen ups and downs and stuff like that, but what advice would you give first-time home buyers, and maybe buyers in general right now, just because it is hard, right? It's a hard market.
I would do whatever you need to do to get in a house. I think the market's going to keep going up. I really do. Even though rates have gone up, the thing is either they're going to go up more, you'll be happy you locked in now, or they go down, you refinance. Yeah. But ultimately, the way that they've just pumped money into the system, the way inflation is going, here's a crazy stat for you. Ready for this? So inflation's gone up 8.5% over the last 3 years, over the last year. Yeah. In the recession, in the worst of times, how much did the market go down in those years? It went down 22% over 3 years. So do the math. It's about 8%. Yeah. Okay. So that means that you're worse off now because of inflation than you were in the recession. It's worse for you now than it was then. And we don't think of it that way because it's not coming. You don't see the thing coming down. But your dollar is worth that much less today. And so it's actually like you would have been better off having the 3 years of the recession. So when people say, I'm going to wait for the market to come down, it's not coming down. What's happening is recession's happening. So you're basically losing that 8.5% every year. You're not in the market.
That's true.
So you're basically having recession by not being in the market as opposed to before when you were in the market. So I'm telling everybody, you got to own as much as you can.
So get into a house. Do anything you can.
Yeah.
Do anything you can to get in a house. Okay. Well, what do you think makes Utah, unique as far as the market goes? I mean, nationally, you hear the news. The news is saying this everywhere, right? That home prices stuff like that. But is Utah unique? I guess in this market, do you think we're going to continue to see?
It's going to flatten off at some point. We forget that 3 years ago, 2019, the whole market was flat. It only went up 3% that year. People don't realize that because 2020, 21, 22 have gone so crazy. But the market's going to flatten for sure, but it's not going to have this, it's not going to go down. There's not enough inventory. There's too many people that are trying to buy homes. Nobody's selling because everyone knows their dollar's not worth as much, so they're trying to get it into real estate. Yeah. So in my opinion, it'll flatten eventually. And especially, rates are now at 5 3/8 today, I think, or whatever. And so it'll start to flatten a little bit, but it's only going to keep going well as it has. And so I think Utah, the advantage of Utah is we do have a very healthy economy. People want to live here. I think for the most part, we have a pretty good government. We have people that are trying to, Utah's special. Sure. When the pandemic hit, I had the founder of Traeger Grills on my podcast, and he told me, he was Jeremy Andrews. One of the cool things that he said was, when the pandemic first hit, the governor got 50 top business owners of Utah on a call together, and we all talked about how we could help each other and work together. He goes, that doesn't happen anywhere else. That only happened in Utah. And he's told buddies of his that live in New York or Jersey, some of these other places, Chicago, about that, and they're like, that's how, where, like, what, how is that even a thing? But it's, Utah is special that way, and I think that's the community, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think Utah does have that uniqueness. So I don't know. I think Utah is going to be one of the top places to live over the next couple decades for sure. But it doesn't mean we're immune to what happens nationally and all the other stuff.
Of course. But as far as, again, things continuing to go up, we're
and it's as good a bet as anywhere. I'll say that.
Okay. That's fair to say. Talk to us about your future. I mean, so obviously you've dominated real estate. You've done really well. What's next on your horizon here, kind of thing?
Yeah. So about 2.5 years ago, I sold what was at the time the most expensive home ever sold on the Utah MLS, $32.5 million.
Wow.
I think that year I was the #1 agent in the state as far as individual volume goes.
Okay.
Just had an amazing year.
Sure.
Sold hundreds of homes, 400 homes or something. And kind of hit like this spot where I knew I was kind of at the peak of my career, and it's amazing. But I just knew I wanted to do something more. I wanted to do more with my life, and I was like, if I die and I was just known as a realtor, like I'm going to be pretty upset about it. Not that that's bad, but it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
a little bit more.
I'm more than that. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And so, and there was actually a realtor that got shot and killed, Dave Stocco. He's going to get his rent from a property, and all the newspaper, all the news, it was about the same time. It was about a few months before that, I guess, but everything just talked about how he was a realtor. I was like, man, this guy was a father of 7. I'm sure he did all these, but all they talked about was realtor. And I said, it kind of just woke me up. I was like, I want to start thinking about some other things I can do with my life that, for part of my life's purpose.
Sure.
And little by little, I started working through these different ideas, and I came up with what is now my coaching program.
Okay.
I just launched it in October called We Are the They.
We Are the They. Okay.
And that's kind of become my life motto. And basically what it is, it's a men's coaching group. Okay. And when I first opened, it was cool because it's helped men become the best version of themselves. Like I went on this path for 10 years, and I basically took all the best information from all the mentors, all the conferences, masterminds, everything I was a part of, and all the books I read, and I put it into this course. And when I launched it, I was kind of nervous because I was capping it at 50 guys, but it's not a cheap course either. I was, I charged a decent amount for this, and I wanted to make sure it filled up. Well, the day I launched it, I had like 145 guys apply.
Oh, wow.
And I knew I was onto something. And so
you only had 50 spots.
Yeah, so I had to pick between the right 50. But so, I felt bad that, and every day I'm getting a couple people that are hitting me up that want to be a part of it. Now they're seeing what we're doing. We go do a lot of crazy stuff. We jump off cliffs and on the rope swing. We're going to Lake Powell, doing helicopter bungee jumps. We're going to go swim in end of this month with tiger sharks in the middle of the ocean, like no cage. But then we do a lot of really cool things that, around the spiritual side and emotions, and just really trying to become the best version of ourselves. And people are seeing it, and they're seeing how it's affecting the guys. And so May 1, I'm opening that up. I'm going to be reopening the program and found a way to do it where I don't have to cap how many people we have in it. And so I'm excited. It's something that I'm passionate about, and that I've been doing for the last 6 months. But that's kind of that in real estate, obviously, I'm always going to be doing the real estate stuff, but that's something that is just really putting me, it's just made it so fun to get up every day and work on.
Sure. A new challenge for you. So.
Yeah.
And this coaching program is not just for, obviously you do real estate, but this isn't like a realtor coaching program,
nothing
right?
to do with real estate.
This is just a life
it's life coach. Yeah, it's nothing to do with real estate. It's, I have a real estate investing mastermind, and I let all the guys that are in my course be on that mastermind for free.
Sure.
Beyond that, we don't talk about anything about real estate. It's all, we talk about finances and investing and money and things like that.
Sure.
But it's about mindset and health and leadership and social and, stuff, and just how to, show up as your best self, all that kind of stuff.
So the guys that are in this program, lots of different careers.
Oh, yeah. Like guys from all over the country. We've got a couple guys outside the country.
Oh, okay. So this is not just a Utah thing even.
No, and a lot of the guys are in Utah just because, that's where I'm from. About half are probably from Utah. But, yeah, we have guys in, I think, 15, 20 different states.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you started it last October, you said?
Yep.
And you said May is when you're going to open it up.
May 1 we're going to open it up. It opens up. I'm going to open it up for about a week, I think.
Okay.
And then we'll close it up again. It's just because we'll have to cap it or whatever. But yeah, so if people are interested, definitely follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be posting plenty. One of the things I'm doing is I started posting all these. I'm going to start posting stories of different guys in the group and how it's kind of changed their lives. It's pretty cool. We've seen such major changes, and it's one thing to one thing I get a lot of pleasure out of with real estate, especially investing side, is helping people invest. I mean, I've sold over 2,500 homes now to investors, and I know how it's changed their lives and helped them. And so there's a lot of satisfaction in that work. With this, it's even more. I'm seeing how it's helping with their kids and just the way they're showing up and everything. Sure. And so it's just super satisfying, fulfilling.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have any advice to new realtors and stuff like that, I guess, getting into the business? I mean.
Yeah. Be very, find the people that you look up to, and then, work your butt off to do what they did. Be consistent. Really have a routine. If you want to be great at real estate, you've got to be working 60 hours a week when you start. You have to, because you have to learn everything about real estate. You got to find homes. You got to learn markets. You got to deal with clients. So I would become obsessed with working 60-hour weeks the first couple of years, and then you get to take the foot off the gas. But if you want to be great, I think that's what it takes. If you just want to be an average realtor, great. I mean, go ahead. They're making a lot of money right now. So.
Sure.
But if you want to be great, that's what it looks like, in my opinion.
Okay. I love it. Jimmy, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Enjoyed talking to you. Enjoyed learning about, obviously all the things you've done and are doing still. So, you're not retired yet, right?
No.
Not dead yet, right? So you're still doing a lot of things.
I'll never be retired. We'll just do new things.
That's exactly it. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, you still want that challenge. I think retirement sounds boring to me sometimes.
Absolutely.
It's like, I want something to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jimmy, for being on, and thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next week.